by government of India to create some kind of an a process in which funding would take place. This is how funding takes place at the international level, and therefore the idea was to really bring in some kind of transparency and allowing a process to be there funding and not allowing cash to be there in terms of the funding. So it was a decision in the right direction, I should say. For whatever reason, the Supreme Court, Honorable Supreme Court has come down and asked for a disclosure, which of course was being done in order to protect the political ramifications that one could have because of the donations made. But the information of those donations that are made are actually available with all, because they have to reflect that in their balance sheet and all other things. So therefore, it was a very transparent process and something that I feel personally, and from the party's point of view, a step in the right direction towards bringing in slightly cleaner and more transparent funding into the electoral system. That's number one. For whatever reason the Supreme Court has decided, I'm not here to judge on that. But as I said, the decision of the government and Election Commission to make electoral bonds and to allow the funding through electoral bonds was the correct one, and it was done in the right earnest. That's number one. Is it going to impact things? Yes, it is going to impact, because now we'll go back to cash funding, and people will not come out openly in the funding that they're doing. So that's number one about electoral bonds. Regarding the arrest of Mr. Kejriwal, again, as I said, that's a judicial process. It's not something that we can comment on, though we know the background and the history of all the summons that were made and different times that were asked to come and present himself. So those concerns were there, and for whatever reason, the High Court at that point when the intervention took place and the discussion that was in the High Court, in Delhi High Court, when the case was going on. So that time the Enforcement Directorate had produced some documents, and based on that, the High Court has had to move forward. So really, it's not something that I would like to comment on. But as I said, it's a process that's being followed. If the process is not being followed, then I'm sure the Supreme Court or the courts will interfere and they will take necessary steps. Regarding the third part, which you mentioned about the freezing of the accounts, again, it's a procedural aspect. You know that certain returns were not filed by the bank, by the concerned parties, and because the returns were not filed by those parties, the normal procedure was for the bank accounts to be frozen. So it's not again a procedure that's being done out of the box for certain parties. It's being done because procedures of returns which every party, for example our party also, National People's Party being a national party, we have to follow certain procedures, we have to file returns, and we had a very difficult time to clarify all those aspects which are there, because it is a very, very tedious process. And so those processes were not followed, and based on that the accounts were frozen. So therefore it's really not something that one should look at it politically. One should have completed the processes, and since the process was not complete, returns were not filed, the accounts were frozen. So really that's what the background is. So I mean, you can find out the facts more, and then
just before elections,
well, that's not something that I would like to comment on, but I'm giving you the facts of the situation that happened.